Okay, so in the diagram below, they're telling us that DFG, let's follow that around, D to F to G, is congruent to H to K to M. And if we look at that like that, we can see that they're actually in the correct position for all of them. So find each of the following. Well, since they're in the correct position, D corresponds with H, F corresponds with K, and G corresponds with M. We can see that from the similarity statement at the top. Then we know that the angles will be matching. This is 59. So this is 59, this is 70, so this is 70, and whatever's left over for here will be left over for here, etc. And then we've got scale factor of 30 over 18, etc. So what is the scale factor? 25 is the first thing. It says, what is the scale factor? And again, we know that corresponding sides, look at up top, DF, the first two letters, corresponds with HK. That's this corresponds with this, and therefore that's corresponding with that. What is that scale factor? That's a scale factor of 30 to 18, but of course, we need to simplify it, because that's what you do with scale factors, is bring them down to simplified terms. And these are both multiples of 6. So 30 divided by 6 is 5, and 18 divided by 6 is 3, and that is the answer for number 25. Now, what's the measure of angle K? Well, if we know what the measure of angle F is, we know that the measure of angle K, because F, and actually let me erase this, what's up top for this particular thing, F, that middle vertex, and K, that middle vertex, those correspond and they're congruent. So measure of angle K is whatever F is. So let's calculate what F is. Here, you can see that this one's 59 and this one's 70. So by the third angle theorem, we can know that whatever that is, not by the third angle theorem, but we can calculate what the third angle is. So what we do, we say, let's do this over up here on the side. We can say 180, the total number of degrees and everything, minus the sum of 70 and 59. Or 180 minus, let's see, 129, which works out to be 51 degrees. So this angle F is 51 degrees, and therefore this angle K is also 51 degrees because they correspond. That's the answer for that. Now, what is the ratio of GD over MH? Well, what is GD? Well, we don't know what GD is, so let's call that, and actually let me pick another color here. We don't know the length of GD, so let's call it X. But over MH is 15. And since we know that that's got to be, it's got to have the same scale factor as what we have here, then we can say X over 15 is equal to 5 over 3. And when we can multiply them together diagonally, we can get to 3x is equal to 45. Nope, 75. Sorry, fuzzy math. And when you divide both sides, you get 25. So then that means we would have 25 over 15 as that ratio of sides, 25 over 15. We needed to set it equal to what we knew the scale factor was in order to find out what x is. And now we're just going to keep it as which number, that number over that same, the actual other number instead of simplifying it. If we were to simplify 27 and say, what is GD over MH in simplified terms? Well, just like all the other matching pairs of sides, it would simplify to whatever the scale factor is, in this case 5/3. But we want to write it as the actual measurements. And so we had to calculate out what is GD, and we found out it's 25, so 25 over 15. Now, MK, what's the length of MK? Well, in the same way, and actually let me just mark GD so you can see what we were looking at there. That was that side and that side. Now let's take a look at this pink side, because we're going to try and find out what is mk. So if we want to find out what mk is, we can say, well, gf over mk equals 27.5 over, and I'm going to put a little x here. You can see up there, we're looking for mk over x, and we know that that is equal to the scale factor that for the whole thing of 5/3. So when we multiply that through, we get 5x is equal to 27.5 times 3, or 5x is equal to, let's do that. What is 27.5 times 3? $82.5. And then that means then that x, which is what mk is equal to, is 82.5 divided by 5, because that was the coefficient there. So 5 goes into 8 once. 5 goes into 32 6 times. 5 goes into 25 5, and that's a decimal right there, so that's 16.5. So 16.5. And I'm going to erase the calculations that we did, but instead of saying x is equal to 16.5, we're going to just say mk is equal to 16.5. So oops, sorry about that. Sometimes I hit the controls and it gets a little funny. There you go. Finally, GD. What does GD measure? Well, GD, we already figured that out from 27 in order to write that scale factor. And actually, I'm not really sure whether they wanted us to write it as a, oops, whether they wanted us to write it as a proper original numbers scale factor, GD over MH is 25 over 15, or whether they wanted to write it as a scale factor. So for number 27, if when you're looking at the answers, instead of saying 25 over 15, it says 5 over 3, then what they're trying to point out there is that that ratio of sides will be the same as the scale factor for all of those ratio of sides. But anyway, in number 27, we already calculated out what is GD and what is it? GD, we figured out, was equal to 25.